Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to NBR, or as we like to call it around here, Nothing But Rants, the show where I find topics that I'm oddly passionate about, and I pontificate upon them. These are not hot takes, but rather takes them hot out. Let's show them guys some tape. Constant deviant behavior. Constant deviant behavior. That's what we talked to you about last week. That was our stance last week when this Michigan news broke. Everyone was hyper-focused on the idea that it was all about sign stealing. We told you your favorite analyst exposed themselves last week. Your favorite analyst exposed themselves as a non-reader when they faked outrage over this being some type of random NCAA investigation that was all about witch hunting and, sign stealing's not cheating. No, sign stealing's not cheating. Watching the opponent's signs during a game or during film or during a TV copy and taking those signs and using them for your advantage is kind of modern football. It's been around for decades, the idea that you're going to steal signs. However, the idea that you're going to scout your opponents and buy tickets to future opponents' football games, sit in the stands, watch, and potentially video the signals of your future opponents, that, my friends, that is cheating, right? That is absolutely cheating. I told you, we had a long history of deviant behavior from Jim Harbaugh, and listen to the reporting from Pete Thamel today and ESPN. I'm going to do a little bit of a reading on this network because apparently not everyone does, and that's okay. Honestly, as a writer, I understand that people aren't going to read forever. Honestly, it's why we kind of spend as much time and effort and money as you look around this place on the video product. I understand that reading is not something that behooves everybody. It's not something that everyone has time for, so we're just going to knock it out for you right here. Here we go. This comes from ESPN and Pete Thamel's investigative report today. Quote, the scope of the University of Michigan's alleged sign stealing operations include both video evidence of electronics prohibited by the NCAA to steal signs and a significant paper trail, sources told ESPN. Stalions, the Michigan coach and analyst that's at question here, Stalions forwarded the tickets he bought to at least 3 different people in different areas of the country, sources say, which hints at the breadth of the operation. He continues, quote, the NCAA is expected to receive video evidence later this week of the illegal technology used in scouting tied to tickets purchased by Stalions, according to sources. An opposing Big Ten school looked up in-stadium surveillance video from a game earlier this year, and sources said the person, this is fucking gold. I did it again. This is freaking gold. The person in the seat of the ticket purchased by Stalions held his smartphone up and appeared to be filming the home team's sideline the entire game. Sources confirmed to ESPN that Stalions purchased those tickets on both sides of the stadium, across from each bench, for Ohio State's game versus Penn State this past Saturday. However, Michigan plays both teams in upcoming weeks. However, according to sources, the tickets purchased by Stalions were not used on Saturday. Stalions' name emerged publicly in an ESPN story produced on Friday. Stalions didn't show up on Saturday. This is so far and away cheating, and you can't convince me otherwise. There is no place in the game of football for something like this. This isn't scouting. This is cheating. This is everything and more that Bill Belichick and Spygate was accused of. This is everything and more that we've seen from a cheating and a scandal in the sport of college football, okay? This isn't paying players. This isn't tampering in the portal. Those are things that impact the product off the field. They are indirect reflections and impacts on the actual product that happens and the outcomes that happen on Saturdays in the fall. Those are byproducts. Those are outside of the in-game product, the actual outcomes of this football game. That is cheating outside the lines. This is very much so cheating inside the lines. This is the type of stuff you cannot have in football. This is the type of stuff you should eradicate. This is the type of stuff you throw people in football prison for, okay? Because again, this is cheating. This is sacrificing the on-game product. This is as far as and as close to cheating as we've seen in college football in recent memory. This is throw your ass in football prison type stuff to me. Welcome in, boys.
Welcome in.
Are you just filming me?
Don't mind me, yeah.
What do you think? What is football prison?
What is football prison?
Yeah.
Football prison is where dreams and hopes and people who've cheated this game go to die. It's where they go to be punished. And it got us thinking about this. What does football prison look like? And who is the warden of football prison? I have a suggestion and a nominee for the warden of football prison, Rutgers. Rutgers is football purgatory. They are forever in the suck. They should be the warden of football prison. They should be the overseer of all that is bad in the sport.
Dang, what did Rutgers do to get sent to football prison?
Be perpetually bad and just receive. It's basically like a prison that receives way too much government funding. That's basically what Rutgers is. Rutgers has that Big Ten contract, and they just get fed way too much government money for their insane prison.
They might be getting a new job soon, though. They got some votes in the AP poll this week.
Did they really?
Yeah. Schiano's got them on the uprise a little bit.
Shouts out Greg Schiano. Any more suggestions for prison or for prison warden in college football?
I think Rutgers is a really good. I was trying to think of another team that's usually just really, really bad consistently.
Vandy, another one just leeching off the government funding from the rest of the conference.
Yeah.
Vandy, not a bad. How about the bus driver that carries you from the local county jail into prison and kind of escorts you? I have the lockdown submission that we kind of came up with pre-show. Bobby Petrino. Yeah. Bobby Petrino is definitely the guy who drives you from jail to prison.
He does it on a motorcycle, though.
Yeah.
He does it on a motorcycle, and you're just hoping and praying that there actually is a wreck so we can get out, right? So we can pull an Uncle Rico or a little Rico story in this bitch.
At least you know he'll have a neck brace for you to take care of you if something happens.
Absolutely. No doubt about that. So we feel good about the bus driver being Bobby?
For sure.
I mean, he's even got a bus driver name, Bobby the bus driver. So there we go. I got Pat Narduzzi as being the cell block guard. For this reason, I don't associate anybody in college football with dry snitching more than I do Pat Narduzzi at Pittsburgh for all that NIL bitching and snitching that he did. And I think he would be a great cell block, prison guard because he's great at this idea of just, it was Bobby over here. Ricky was the actual one with the shank in his, good snitch.
Yeah.
Is Pat Narduzzi.
Nothing's getting past him, for sure.
At all.
Who's someone who's escaped prison?
Ooh, Lane Kiffin. Mm-hmm. Lane Kiffin's definitely escaped prison twice.
Lane Kiffin's a good one. Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly's a good one.
Butch Jones tried, but he's failed.
I mean, Brian Kelly killed a guy.
Yeah, Brian Kelly.
Brian Kelly killed a guy. So there's that. No, but I think Lane Kiffin is he is Shawshank Redemption. Mm. You know what I mean? He ain't crawling through the sewers.
He's Andy Dufresne.
He's Andy Dufresne, for sure.
It's a great movie. I need to rewatch it.
Who's the lunch lady in prison?
Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley?
Yeah. That dude's always serving up some prison type food.
That's some awful ass lunch then.
Yeah.
But I mean, prison food can be good, and that's basically what Lincoln be out here serving his family.
It's good food, but at a very poor level.
Making all that money and feeding your family basically tree bark.
Leather.
Yeah, leather and tree bark. I got Penn State as the lunch lady, kind of known for serving up slop and doing so in a very lunch lady uniform. That white and that kind of that one blue strips, almost like the darkness from the hairnet, and then you got that balanced white. I'm definitely going Penn State as the lunch lady. And then somebody's got to give the tour of the prisons, and SMU's got that on lock.
Ooh, OGs.
SMU's out here just giving the tour and be like, look, hey, life imprisonment, not that bad. Yep. We get out as long as you have good boosters.
Those are lifers for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. So prison in college football sounded like a topic that we should dive ourselves into like we did last week with some of our fun stuff. Welcome into tonight's show. We got a loaded one for you. What Saturday taught us about the 2023 college football season? I saw one of the worst takes I've ever seen, and I think you did as well, based off how Twitter responded. I think everybody dunked on Mans for one of the worst takes. We're obviously going to give you a weekend recap. We gave you the Sunday show. It's been one of our highest watched, most viewed national hours that we've had. So you guys obviously like that. We'll be bringing that back to you next Sunday or this coming up Sunday. Well, we're going to finish up our national kind of responses from the week. It was a mess around and find out type of college football weekend. We're going to start with that probably here in just a second. There's a bunch of good football games. Where do you guys – oh, first of all, welcome in. Want to give a quick shout-out to the folks over at Prize Picks. Hey, we're 0 for 2 last 2 weekends on our Prize Picks locks. I think Drake May got us this weekend. Last weekend, Donovan Edwards got us. But we're 3 for 4 on those plays. We got to come out. We got to come out with that last fourth one. We got to hit. And this week, I think we're going to do it over on prizepicks.com. Use the promo code Brooks. You will get a 100% deposit match. Also, we'll save the shout out for the athletic collection over there on the Georgia Hour. So appreciate those folks over at Prize Picks. Make sure you're showing love to those who show love to us. Make sure you're also hitting that thumbs up button, like, subscribing, rating, reviewing. Appreciate you guys for being here tonight. Where should we start, boys?
What the hell, UNC?
What the hell, UNC? I think we knew. I didn't know, but the show knew. We didn't individually knew, but we knew.
We didn't know when.
We knew the ACC was going to ACC.
We knew this game like this was eventually going to happen.
We didn't know it was going to happen against arguably the worst Power 5 team.
Worst.
I mean,
but
bad.
At the same time, that's the perfect time for it to happen.
It's the most ACC thing ever.
I mean, I don't even have analysis. I just have jokes. So do y'all want the jokes first or the analysis first?
I like jokes. Let's get some jokes in.
So for those of you who didn't watch, because you didn't, this game was on the CW network. What is the CW network, you're asking? It's that one that kind of, for you folks in Georgia, looks like the Peachtree TV logo. It's just green, and then it says CW network. This was by far the worst thing to happen to the CW network in terms of, like, you know, people not watching the good stuff. Or in this case, watching the bad stuff. This is the worst thing to happen to the CW network since the F-Boy Island debuted 2 weeks ago. F-Boy Island.
The hell is that?
My thoughts exactly. Awful television. Awful for future network ratings as well, just like a North Carolina loss. This was the worst thing to happen to the CW network since they had to limit their hours of Cops reruns from 4 down to 2. Oh. Yeah, absolutely. This is the worst thing to happen to the CW network since Live Golf signed a deal with their network. Just live golf.
Golf stinks.
This was a bad day for the ACC and the CW network.
Imagine losing to 1-5 Virginia and then having to cope with reruns of Wonder Years. That's just a tough night. That's a bad Saturday night.
That's tough. Imagine watching your football team lose to the worst Power 5 football team in the country, not named Stanford, and having to watch every commercial break be teased with. And coming up next, F-Boy Island. Find out which one of these blonde-tipped, juiced-up meatheads takes home the woman who's not wearing enough clothes here on national television. F-Boy Island.
That's tough. I can't remember the last time I turned the CW on.
It's been a minute. Since I've gone to YouTube TV, I don't even think YouTube TV gets CW.
I was trying to think of the last time I watched something on there. It's probably some rerun of a show or something.
All jokes aside, this was one of those games where it was like, how does Virginia manage to keep scoring? How are they still in this football game? And they just kept doing it over and over and over again.
Yeah, and it's one of those illogical games where you're like, on paper, this should not happen. But that's what, honestly, that's what UNC
at home, too.
No, that's what UNC has become. That's what the ACC has become. That's what the Pac-12 is for the last few years. I mean, these types of things always seem to happen no matter how unlikely or how much they shouldn't happen. So,
was this the only top 10 team that had one of these mess around and find out football games and lost? Because Washington had one of these, Texas had one of these, Oklahoma had one of these.
Yeah, for now.
Who am I missing? There was a bunch of teams that had one of these we just squeaked by a really bad football team. I said Washington.
Okay.
So this is the only team that lost, though.
Yeah.
That messed around and found out. So shouts out. Shouts out UNC.
Shout out Ty Furnish.
Shouts out bye-bye to the Heisman, right?
Yeah.
For Drake.
Oh, yeah, he's gone. I mean, who's the Heisman contender? Who's like the front?
JJ McCarthy.
I heard a bunch of people doing the JJ McCarthy thing already.
You know what?
Man's on pace for 3,600 yards and going to win the Heisman.
You know who I think should be in the front?
Who? Marv?
Bodacious?
No.
Bodacious?
Yeah.
Nah. Bo Nix lost.
You want to know how crazy the Heisman
schedule so far?
The Heisman odds are so crazy right now. Caleb Williams has the same odds as Jalen Milroe.
Oh,
yeah. That's how quickly that one fell off.
He should just not play another game.
How is Marvin Harrison not the betting odds favorite for the Heisman right now?
That's
because he had a really bad few starts in the first few games of the season. Yeah, but I mean, so is Brock Bowers.
No, that's true.
Marvin Harrison. Who's Marvin Harrison? You mean Maserati Harrison?
I knew it was coming. How bad was that? You were on this, man. Hey, hold on. Time out. I just want to let everybody know, if you haven't been paying attention to the National Hour, my boy Kirby is on a daggum heater the last like 4 or 5 weeks, just random things too. I mean, absolute random things. Last week, guaranteed, lock of the century, there's going to be a Jim Harbaugh stole my other sign
Verbatim.
at College Game Day, verbatim. First one they showed on National Game Day, basically. Okay, and then he hit this one as well. This is some good predictions coming from you lately.
So which one are you referring to? Because, I mean, there was
You
also
can get some beef with Gus Johnson.
yeah, because this was what we talked.
Oh yeah, the Gus Johnson beef is what I was alluding to.
we talked
for sure.
about this on the ride back from Vandy in Nashville. I cannot stand Gus Johnson. He does too much. How he puts emphasis on every single play that doesn't need
Maserati, Marv.
it was and finally, like, people who paid attention and actually like watched Fox Sports because the big noon kickoff and everything now.
Yeah.
People caught on to it, like, what the hell is Gus Johnson doing? I tweeted, if I have to listen to Gus Johnson growl Maserati Marv one more time, I'm muting the TV. It was excruciating.
It was, and I texted you guys, and we were bitching about it. I texted you guys. I thought it was a little one-sided. Like, Gus is always sounding like he just watched the greatest play to ever happen on football.
Yeah.
But when Penn State was driving the football, like, I didn't hear crazy-ass Gus Johnson. Kind of heard normal radio guy. Or like
And to
normal
be fair,
PA
Penn
guy.
State wasn't doing
I
it.
No,
think-
they weren't. But that's why when they finally did something, you should have been like, you know,
You know
2 hour.
You know what the problem is?
What?
He tries so hard to make every moment more than it is that it comes across disingenuous.
I think
To the point where I'm like, what are you doing?
I think the reason why he gets so much love is because the majority of college football fans don't listen to him on a weekendly basis. And so, like, when they just see the highlight clips of him on Twitter, like, oh my gosh, Gus Johnson, this call was amazing. Like, you had barbecue chicken back there and you didn't invite me, like that type of stuff. People
So
fall in love
corny.
with that.
That is the most overrated call ever.
Not the point anyways. You can continue your beef later. And then, like, they remember him in Madden when they were kids. And, but then you have to indulge with him for an entire, like, 3 hours.
You know who else has to indulge with him? And he always compliments him because he's his partner. He's supposed to. But Joe Klatt seemed a little bit, like, not necessarily perturbed, but Joe Klatt wasn't really. And here's when it stood out to me. At one point, Gus Johnson, in the middle of a screaming fit, basically goes on to, like, criticize the offensive, like, design from Penn State. And he's like, JK, partner, they sure are asking Drew Aller to do a lot of processing right now. Thoughts? And he, like, throws it to him, and Joel Klatt's like, I mean, I guess. And then went to start talking about Ohio State's defense, and was like, I can kind of tell, you know, when you're not immediately helping out your partner, you might not be in love with what your partner's doing to the broadcast at the moment.
Yeah, but I mean, on the flip side, shout out to Gus Johnson because now he's become a national topic. He's more relevant than he ever was. So
Speaking of,
in a way, he's done his job. So
while we're talking about national analysts and news, did you see what Pat McAfee talked about today?
That's wild.
It's also very sensitive.
I actually
Yes.
missed that. What was it?
Very sensitive. There was an athletic report today or yesterday that came out because the Athletic's doing a lot of business reporting on sports as of late. Not great business in their own department, but anyways, like historically in the red. By the way, if you've ever done any reading up on the Athletic's business model, it's rather fascinating. But they wrote an article yesterday about how they polled 3,100 viewers of College Game Day. And the overwhelming majority of them came back with the fact that they don't like Pat McAfee on the broadcast. I think 19% or something like that said that they do, and then 30% were indifferent or something along those lines. Pat McAfee quoted it and basically said, well, that's good to know that I'm not liked. I just won't come back. I'm taking my ball and I'm going to go home. Am I wrong? Am I oversighting
No,
that?
I mean, did you read the Sports Illustrated article?
Uh-uh.
Oh, so they he gave like a full-on quote about the situation in a Sports Illustrated article, and basically what he said is like, I love College Game Day. I've loved the opportunity to be with College Game Day, but this exact reason is why I have not signed a contract extension with them. And so he basically said, like, so if I'm not welcome, then I won't come back because I don't want to ruin people's weekends and whatnot. But I also would not be opposed to continuing doing College Game Day.
I mean, that's kind of sad, dude.
Why?
Because you can tell. I don't know, because it's kind of the same reason I don't like Gus Johnson.
Yeah.
But you can tell Pat McAfee genuinely enjoys what he's doing. Is he a little over the top sometimes? Yeah. I think the problem is that ESPN tried to make him a straightforward analysis guy.
Yes.
Like he's not that. He doesn't fit that mold.
You know what he is? He's a closer. He's a modern day closer. He does not, in that setting, he does not need to be coming in there and throwing gas for 3 hours.
No.
I've never fallen in love with Pat. I've fallen in love with Pat's journey. If you've been paying attention, it's kind of what I'm modeling this after. I want to eventually build this up to where we're our own bosses. We get to do whatever, and we get to talk sports for a living, and we get to do it as friends, okay? And we don't have like a lot of constructive criticism or constructive oversight, and we just kind of get to do what we want. And it's ideal for everybody. Pat's the only one to actually freaking make it happen, okay? So I've always admired that. But what got me in the bandwagon of Pat was the little doses we got of him, okay, during College Game Day.
Yeah.
All right, a couple years ago when it was like, all right, Pat's going to jump off of a bus into a river. Pat's going to go over here in the student fan section and crowd surf. Pat's going to do Pat stuff over here on this little stage. We got David Pollock and Kirk and Desmond over here to do the real analysis and to laugh at Desmond saying something stupid. Okay, so that's what we have over here. Over here we have the fun and the car horns and the which is Pat McAfee.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's been inundated. The broadcast has been with too much McAfee. Now they tried to tone him down a little bit and almost make him
wear a suit.
Yeah, make him wear a suit, make him do real analysis, like make him give him the cue cards, and he's talented enough to do that. But you can tell that's not the role he wants to play.
No.
Yeah, I think that it would be great. Like the field goal thing that he does every single week, I love that. That's great Pat content.
Yeah.
That's great getting the fans involved. If they just I agree with you. If they just kind of did that stuff with him,
They
and that
need
was
the
his
ISO.
role.
He needs to be J.R.
Yes.
Smith. He doesn't need to be walking down running complicated offense, man. He needs to walk down. No starters are on the court. It's yours, baby. ISO Joe, go out and get buckets.
Mm-hmm.
I think what ESPN was trying to do was find the next guy to kind of fill that Lee Corso role.
Yeah.
Where it's kind of he gives analysis, but he's got a shtick, and whatever it was with McAfee just hadn't stuck yet. And I think the public has kind of rejected him, mainly also because Corso is still there.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have too many shticks right now.
I just don't. I'm not one. Like I don't like remakes. I don't like any idea. I think it lacks creative ingenuity. I don't think we have to replace the old with a newer version of the old. We just got to replace the old. And yeah, I think you're right. It's got too much sticky in it for most people. Anyways, let's get on to some actual analysis here. Where do we want to go next? Do we want to talk about whether or not this Florida State win was actually impressive?
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's do this.
Because
it wasn't.
No, it
wasn't.
not.
This game was tied at half, and then Riley Leonard doesn't play the second half, and they absolutely pour it on.
Yeah.
In the second half, they have 21 points in the third quarter, I think.
Yes. I mean, I said it. I said if Riley Leonard plays, I think that Duke has a great chance of winning this football game. And when he was in the football game, I honestly thought Duke was going to win the game. And then he goes out with an injury. They have to go to the backup, and then Florida State just kind of takes over, which is why I said if like Duke can keep it close with the backup, but they're not going to win this football game. And so, yeah, it was one of those things where it was like, feels like a missed opportunity for Duke, because if you did keep Leonard in, then you probably do win that football game more than, great ranked win for Florida State this week.
Here's the problem, and I agree with that. You're completely right. Mm-hmm. When you look at it, I think 4 weeks from now, you're going to look at it and go, they beat a top 25 team by 3 scores. Mm-hmm. And in the same week, 3 top 10 teams struggled against nobodies. Sure. So, I mean, when you stack it up against like that, it's a much more impressive win. When you look at it in a vacuum, yeah, it's not a great win. You're a much better team than Duke, and you didn't beat them like you should have, and it took Riley Leonard getting hurt for you to win that game that way. But I think in the way the season has gone so far, a win like that is much more valuable.
All right, I was doing some research today. Since the college football playoff has been enacted, we've basically had a football team in the mix that ends up getting just absolutely just smacked in the first round. Okay, Florida State, ironically, in the first year of the playoffs, got absolutely housed by Oregon. Okay, Michigan State in 2015, 38-0 against Alabama. Washington and Ohio State got their doors blown off in 2016. Mm-hmm. Clemson got their doors blown off by Alabama in 17. Notre Dame was the victim to Alabama in 2018. Oklahoma was down 4 scores within the first 4 possessions of the football game against LSU in 2019. Notre Dame again got dubbed up heavy by Alabama in 2020. Both Cincy and Michigan got their doors blown off in 2021. Last year was the first year of the college football playoff where we actually had good college football semifinal games in the college football playoffs. So I go through all of these to ask, is Florida State going to be our next wasted spot of a college football playoff opponent? Because they look right now on paper and through, like if you watch them, like they have some, okay, like they're good, but like, right?
I mean, it's very possible.
Yeah, very possible.
They'd be the team if they made it. That
if you were to ID them right now, it'd be them or Washington.
Yeah,
I know you're out on Washington,
Yeah.
especially after this weekend.
Mm-hmm. It makes sense for that to be the case, but also there's a lot of teams that you would prior to come in expecting like, oh yeah, that's going to be the team that doesn't make it, and they end up putting up a fight. Like TCU last year is a perfect example. Everyone thought Michigan was going to beat the hell out of them at first. Obviously, that's what happened in the national championship, but they came out and surprised a lot of people when they played Michigan. So I think it's kind of give and take.
Yeah, we went through that the Clemson year from that 2017, I think it was 2016 or 17 year.
Yeah, 2017 when they had Kelly Bryant.
Yeah, they go through they win 6 ball games by 1 score or less and have a loss to Syracuse on a year where they go to a national title. Like that's absurd, and that rarely ever happens. So yeah, I doubt it's going to happen this year. Where do we go next? We want to talk about Clemson while we're sticking on the ACC.
Might as well.
Sure.
I don't really care to break down the football game. It was a tight ball game. Obviously goes into a double overtime. I care more about what happened to end the football game and our thoughts on this, because I think it's kind of in line with what we've kind of thought about Dabo as of late. A lot of finger pointing going on up there at Clemson, even so much so last week where he said, quote, maybe we should lose some more football games to get some people off of the bandwagon. Obviously, that's a quote that's being thrown back in his face this week. But what was kind of drawing my attention was watching a post-game press conference of Cade Klubnik looking like someone shot his dog and looking like a beyond a deer in the headlights, looking like the most defeated human being in the world, because he was having to ask questions, rightfully so, about his decision to pull the football out of the belly of Will Shipley on a design counter play on 4th and goal during that second overtime possession, and pull the ball out, obviously get stopped short. They lose the football game. And when asked about it after the game, Dabo Swinney took it not necessarily upon himself, but took the liberty and the freedom that he has as the head football coach to go ahead and just, here's the bus. Go on, Cade. Was asked about the last play of the game, was asked whether or not it was an RPO, was asked what went into the decision, and the head coach threw his hands up and said, that's not an RPO. Our quarterback decided to pull the football, and I don't know why. Okay, you're going to have to ask him why he decided to do that. Now, I'm all for it's a big boy world. It's a big boy sport. We hold everybody accountable. We do all this. I'm all for that, okay? But you don't have to do that right before you throw the dude to the Sharks and to the Wolves and go out there and have him answer for a football game that he didn't necessarily lose but looks like he lost. Boys, I want to know your thoughts, your opinions on the idea that Dabo Swinney, by the way, make sure you hit that thumbs up button, like, subscribe, rate, and reviewing. Thoughts and ideas, or thoughts and takeaway from Dabo basically just saying, it was my quarterback's fault.
I think I don't mind correcting it. I don't mind you telling your quarterback that he was wrong in that situation, but I don't think that's the right setting to do it, especially right after the football game. I think in that setting, it should have simply just been, he's our starting quarterback for a reason. We trust him in those situations. He decided to make the decision to pull the football. If that's what he felt was right, then we'll live with that.
Because here's the other thing. Cade mentioned in his press conference when I watched it that he did the same exact thing against Wake Forest, and it worked out for a touchdown. And maybe he did. And maybe Dabo went out in front of the media and said, hey, shouts out to our quarterback for going out and taking the creative freedom to pull that ball out of the belly and get us a touchdown when we needed it. Maybe he did. And if he did, then kudos to him for being what we asked for on this show, which is consistent. That's all we ever asked for. And but he has consistently done this. He has consistently thrown his players under the bus. Mm-hmm. He's consistently blamed it on lack of execution when they lose tight football games. And done things like this over and over again. I don't like doing it to a first-year starter in a down year.
Yeah. No. Something's in the water in South Carolina right now.
If you're Clemson, is Dabo Swinney the answer? I mean, you still have to start asking this question. And I know you say yes, you can't get rid of him because he's won you 2 natties. That's not the same Clemson. You can't tell me
it's not.
It's not.
No.
I mean, they've fallen so far from what they were 3 years ago, to the point where now Dabo is blaming players.
I'll tell you this much: if Cade Klubnik ain't the guy that's going to play transcendently at the quarterback position and win them national titles, whoever they've landed in the next couple classes ain't going to be the guy.
Exactly.
Because this is the last 5-star that they might ever land at the quarterback position. You know what I mean? Like, this was the number 2 overall ranked quarterback coming out of high school. This was a pedigree guy. And the kid they signed last year out of Alabama wasn't this.
No.
I forget his name, but he definitely wasn't this. So, I mean, if you're reliant, if your 2 national titles are a byproduct of Trevor Lawrence and Deshaun Watson, and that guy ain't walking through that door, then you probably are right in the sense that the writing's on the wall at Clemson. But let's give him an offseason. Let's give him an offseason to see if he learned. Okay, if he watched this happen all year, and if he still refuses to adapt to the modern ages of college football, then we can say, yeah, go on.
But did we not do that last year?
No, I think last year we trusted his process one more year, especially from a national analyst perspective. We listened to him. Dude, this is the same Dabo Swinney that said they have this character score. They have these roster evaluation scores that they do. They have this model.
What was that, like, what was this, communist China?
Yeah, I mean, basically. What have they done? They've created a model where they grade their roster score based off all these intangibles while also grading it off of the physical traits that they have and the measurables and all this good stuff. And they said going into the year, this was their highest scored roster they've ever had on the scoring metric in the model. So obviously the model ain't working.
Well, it's also, I think that's probably a lot of off-season smoke. Like didn't
Fugazi,
Ed Orgeron do that after the 2019 season, heading into 2020? Or no, heading into the 2021 season?
I think he did a lot of blowing smoke.
That's what I'm saying. But like, you can't trust coaches at their word in that instance. Coming off an off year, they're always going, this is the best roster we've had. It's like,
Chat points out a good point. Probably even more reliant on Brett Venables than like a Saban was any of his assistants.
Yeah.
Like Brett Venables and that defense were a lot of the reasons why they won national titles.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? That year they won the national title with that defensive line. The defensive line was insane. It had 3 first-round draft picks.
Insane defense and transcendent quarterback play was what Clemson's known for. They don't have either of that right now.
None. So yeah.
And they don't. It doesn't look like they're going to get either of that anytime soon.
Nah. I don't love the performances. I don't love the decisions, but I really, really don't love. Hey, go ask that 20-year-old why he decided to do that. I don't know. That's not on me. That's on him. He lost us the game. It wasn't that, but it was that. I mean, it was basically that. Also, on the flip side, what did y'all think about Lincoln Riley just saying, nah, players don't have to talk to the media. I'm going to be the only guy.
I think he's checking out, dude.
You think so?
Yeah.
You think he's off to the NFL?
I think he has no interest in playing in the Big Ten or the SEC.
Ooh. That Big Ten conference is a little thick for him.
Yeah, I mean, look, he as soon as Oklahoma was kind of making the move to go to SEC, he went up and he went to USC. He's like, oh, he's going to bring back this national powerhouse. No, he's not.
Chat said, Dabo said, y'all just pray for Cade. No, the Lincoln Riley off to the NFL stuff, I feel like this smoke comes up every October, every November. It's one of his many scapegoats. Mm-hmm. He's got Alex Grinch, and he's got, the NFL will love me. You know, I do offense.
Yeah.
But no, I think the Lincoln Riley USC loss, I mean, it's classic Utah just beating the shit out of you. I thought the quote from Whittingham afterwards, did you see it? He said, they got Caleb Williams, the Heisman Trophy winner, but we got a pig farmer. You know, he's actually legitimately a pig farmer. The guy comes from a farm with 8,000 pigs.
Holy hell.
Yep. And he raised 8,000 pigs on his 8,000 pig farm.
What a guy.
Yeah. Couldn't tell you his name.
And then he beat USC.
Barnes?
No, he beat USC. Barnes?
Something Barnes?
Barnes the pig farmer.
Yeah.
That's what's up, man.
I knew he was some type. He had to have that type of background because if you listen to his post game interview, real Southern drawl.
Hicktown.
Oh yeah, big time.
Hicktown, USA.
Yeah.
I think the biggest storyline coming out of the Utah USC game was the fact that they've kind of leaked out Cam Rising taking a red shirt.
Yeah.
Cam Rising going to come back for a 9th year of college football.
What a wild timeline. We were sitting here week
1.
Week
week
1.
0.
Yeah, week 0 saying, Cam Rising questionable for the Florida game. He might play to now we're going into week 9. It's like, he's done for the year. He never played at all.
He's going to sit on it.
Well,
Yeah.
I mean, I think they realize that, like, they don't need
We don't need you to risk
Yeah.
it.
Like, why when we have these backups that are playing not as good but good enough, why just redshirt you?
Just playing Utah football.
You're not going to go to the NFL right now. Look at the draft class ahead of you.
Right now?
Like I'm saying, after this year.
Don't do it like that.
I didn't think you needed to stipulate right now. Breaking news, I don't think Cam Rising is going to be an NFL football player. Like a sustained NFL starter. Here's the deal. If Cam Rising is a sustained NFL starter, I'll give everyone who likes this video $1.
He could be a Brian Hoyer guy.
Huh?
He could be like a Brian Hoyer.
Yeah, but not a true NFL starter.
No. I never said that.
That was worth $1.
If you get to start for the Browns for a couple games, it doesn't count.
He could definitely be a Brian Hoyer where it's like, I've been in the league 16 years. Let me come in and throw you 2 picks real quick.
Brian Hoyer, known hooper. Did you know this?
Really?
Brian Hoyer, like big time. Or no, that might have been one of the McCowns. Yeah, I think it was one of the McCowns. USC title hopes and Heisman hopes in the water.
Just
this
quit.
weekend.
Shocker.
And classic. Everybody saw it coming.
Yeah.
Everybody saw Utah coming for that ass.
Yeah. I mean, the defense was just horrible.
Defense was horrible.
And then the splits that they put up for Caleb Williams against top 25 opponents, something that we have kind of started to
I got on that like week
something
before.
that we have kind of started to hint at on the show a little bit of like, hey, when he has to go up against these big time opponents, isn't really performing to the level or the caliber that we're used to him playing. And then over the last couple of weeks, it's just completely unfolded, and everybody's like, we caught you with your pants down. Finally, we got you.
But I don't think he needs to play another snap of college football.
You think you should just quit? No
I mean,
Heisman, no Natty.
Fiscally, it's the best thing for him.
I want to say this, though, right quick. When a 21-year-old, 22-year-old kid, 21, Bear Alexander? 21?
Younger than that, probably.
20?
He's 20. He's younger than
When a
us.
20-year-old kid loses a football game for his football team, that's not the time to dunk on him on social media. Like, I know, and this is a national hour, so I understand that this is not tailored to Georgia fans, but a lot of you are listening right now. Don't do that. That's just rude. Like, you've already won that one, all right? You won that one when they were out there giving up touchdowns to Nevada week 1 against San Jose State week 2. Like, you've won that one, all right? So just don't go dunking on 19-year-old, 20-year-old kids. Now, when Jermaine Burton hits a woman, yeah, you can go crap on that one on social media because that's deserved. But he had a personal foul roughing the passer in a critical moment and lost his football game. Or lost the team his football game. So,
which, if I'm being honest, was not the most malicious roughing the passer.
No,
we saw
but it's
this week.
letter of the law. He hit. With
No,
the top
yeah,
of his
that's
helmet,
it's definitely a foul. But did you see the Michigan State one? Oh,
complete phantom.
Oh, that one was horrible.
Oh, like
One of the
I thought-
Gronkowski type plays.
I thought you were talking about when they put Hitler up on the scoreboard this weekend.
that's also
was that
very
about?
bad.
That was crazy. You know what they blamed it on? They said there was an in-house company, a third-party company that was running the in-house scoreboard, and they just randomly selected a trivia video, and one of the trivia clips was, I guess, a trivia question about Hitler.
That's the worst, most in-depth lie I've ever heard.
Yeah. What's also funny, and this is shouts out to the Shutdown Fullcast. They mentioned this. Could you imagine being the SID? The SID, the Sports Information Director that is sitting in the box at a home game against Michigan State. You're getting your doors blown off. Michigan could score 100 points if they wanted to. And you're getting your phone blown up because Hitler's on the scoreboard. And you have to go write a press conference release about, sorry, we put Hitler on the board.
And with the current news that's going on too,
It's
horrible.
and putting
timing.
Hitler on your scoreboard, second biggest scandal at your football program right now. Nuts.
Oh, yeah, I forgot about Mel Tucker.
Yeah, you forgot about Mel Tucker, didn't you?
Dude, that's crazy.
That's crazy.
He's been on the back burner.
Maybe that was the plan. Maybe it was a dark ops, a little black ops mission, a little
Bad
blops.
PR move. I'm not a PR major.
Smart PR move. Let's have him talking about Hitler instead of the phone calls.
Nothing washes our hands clean of
Yeah.
sexual assault like Adolf Hitler.
Yeah.
Well played,
I'm no
Michigan State.
PR major. Not good. That's
They're
not
playing,
good.
they're playing chess out there at East
They're playing
Lansing.
chess, bro. Everyone's talking about Hitler now. We all know Hitler's a bad guy. Let's talk about Mel Tucker again.
Yeah.
What was he doing?
We all know that Hitler guy. Not great. You know what I mean? Not great. But anyways, some Michigan State just absolute laughing hysterically going on up there. Where should we go next? Should we close the show with our Ohio State, Penn State thoughts? We got Bama, Tennessee still left with some meat on the bone. Mizzou, an actual good football team. Where do we want to go?
We can go over those. We haven't talked about what Saturday taught us about this season.
Oh, yeah. What did Saturday teach you?
You want to go first?
No. I want to hear you. You set up the segment.
Basically that no matter what you think, it's not true.
Oh.
Like last year, not last year, last week.
Don't believe the foos.
No, last year. Why do I keep saying year? Last week you talked about how Washington's an unstoppable football team, and they looked like it. I'm not saying I'm not calling you out or dunking on you.
Somebody hopped in the comments on that video this morning and said they scored 8 points this weekend. You suck.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not what you think it's going to be, and it's never going to be. So I don't know why we're coming out and saying, oh, they're a playoff team, they're not a playoff team, they're not going to make it. Like we've buried teams and said their other teams are playoff teams, and they proved otherwise.
I think that's true in a sense, but I was right about something, and I think you were kind of on this with me as well. This whole conversation of we got a bunch of teams that need to be in the playoff and we got a bunch of teams that are national title worthy, this is exactly what I was waiting on, a weekend like this where a bunch of teams was like, oh, Washington, maybe not as good as LSU in 2019.
Yeah.
Oh, FSU, fraudulent like we kind of expected them to be a little bit. Oh, UNC wasn't going to run the table just kind of like we expected them to because they're going to lose to 1-5 Virginia. Oklahoma, trap game against UCF, nearly got burned on that one. Like, it's exactly why I kept saying hold on that conversation because we like to do that at the beginning of the year. We like to say,
Texas giving up a 21-0 lead to start the football game, and then getting into a dogfight fourth quarter game without their starting quarterback.
Which, by the way, they should have at least tied that game up in the second overtime.
Horrible,
Did you see that call?
horrible call at the end of that football game. But no, I mean, the Texas story is something we need to talk about because they're taking a hit at quarterback play. Like Quinn Ewers didn't play great against Oklahoma. He had some critical misses, but they have had great quarterback play this year out at Texas with Quinn Ewers, and now they don't. Now it's Malik Murphy, and it'll be Arch Manning, and they'll apparently they haven't 100% decided that Malik's going to be the guy. The answer was today from Sarkisian that if they were to play today, Malik would be the guy, but they're both going to take first-team reps this week. I don't necessarily know if I believe that.
This might be a very Carson Beck, Brock Vandagriff type thing.
Yeah. I think this is very much so you have to play Malik Murphy or you're going to lose him anyways, and you might lose him anyways.
I think
it's also a smoke and mirrors type of thing where it's like, oh, you don't really know who we're going to start, so you have to prepare for both because they're two different quarterbacks.
I'm also not really of the belief that you're going to put your true freshman out there to continue to save your season because you can't lose. I mean, you have to keep winning. So I'm not a believer that you're going to put Arch Manning, the true freshman, out there to go out there and be the savior of your season until Ewers gets back.
It does make the rest of their schedule more interesting than it was previously. I mean, their Big 12 slate didn't look great. They got BYU, Kansas State, TCU, Iowa State, and Texas Tech. The football game I'd be worried about if I'm a Texas fan looking at that schedule is that K-State game. Did you see what they did to TCU this weekend?
Beat the crap out of them.
Yeah.
So bad.
I don't know.
Like 49-3?
Yeah, it was rough. I heard some crazy stat about that. I'll have to go find it. Something absolutely bonkers. It made me laugh. Oh, I know what it was. They rushed for 343 yards in that football game, did K-State. And I think there were 8 players on the roster with at least 5 rushes.
Jesus. 3-3 stack, baby.
Yeah. So it was absolutely everybody eats. It was some family feed out there at K-State and TCU. So that football game looks to be one that might be troublesome for TCU or for Texas, excuse me.
Well, I mean, they're all going to be like
yeah.
The BYU game, probably not.
Probably not, but
The TCU game, probably not.
No.
The Iowa State game, probably not.
I mean,
But
Washington against 1-5 Arizona.
I know
probably not.
we messed around and found out this weekend.
So I'm
with
saying
a lot of
that
folks.
there's no game for the rest of the season where I go, oh, don't worry about it.
College football, baby.
That's what makes the sport so great, dude.
I mean, the NFL has this, but they don't have the top like the outcome of the game doesn't end your season like it does in college football.
And the
Right
parity
now,
is
at least.
so much closer. Like,
Yeah.
as bad as, say, the Carolina Panthers are, if they turn around and beat the San Francisco 49ers at some time, you could see that happening because everyone on is professional.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's something that gets like people forget about is the worst team in the NFL and the best team in the NFL are a lot closer than what people realize. Like that's why teams are.
The stat for this is the offensive yards per play. The difference between number one, the delta, the difference between number one in yards per play, Miami, and number two is just as large as the difference in yards per play as number 2 on the list and number 32 on the list.
Yeah, so I mean,
so 2 and 32 offensively right now are almost dead even or really, really close. And then there's Miami, but the rest of the league is very, very close.
And it's why teams are able to turn their organizations around so quickly because you're a player or two away from completely flipping your defense or your offense. I mean, the Falcons are an example of this defensively. They went and got Jesse Bates and a couple defensive linemen, and now everybody's like, "Whoa, Falcons defense really good this year."
Yeah,
absolutely. I think we would be remiss if we didn't hit on these Ohio State, Penn State, and Bama and Tennessee games before we head out. By the way, I'm looking at the numbers right now. We're having one of our best nights here on NBR, so I appreciate you guys for being here. Make sure you're hitting that thumbs up button, okay, and tell your friends that, yes, the Georgia show does the national hour better than probably anybody that we've watched in recent minds. So we appreciate you, or recent time. We appreciate you for being here. We brushed over it before we talk about this. Emmanuel Acho, one of the worst takes in the history of takes. Do we need to crap on him other than what the internet did? By the way, I think he does this on purpose. I think this is what he wants. I think he wants engagement for dumbass takes because he has a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And he's not a dumb person. Okay, I've read some of his actual work. Like, he's an author. He's a smart dude. He did this on purpose.
Yeah, I mean,
he wanted the college football world to be like, oh, and he got it.
Honestly, props to the college football world for standing up to itself because from a Caleb Williams standpoint, it makes some sense to sit out. But when you do that, you're undermining the sport as a whole and saying all this is we play for titles, Heismans. If we don't, the sport has nothing to offer. I'm going to sit out.
It was kind of a bullshit take, honestly.
For sure.
So we just move on with that. Ohio State and Penn State played a great football game Saturday, guys. Well, Ohio State did, and Penn State's defense played great. Give me your thoughts. I gave a Sunday rundown this yesterday morning, and gave my takes on it. I'm interested in what you guys thought about this one.
Watching this game was just kind of like Penn State's not going to be able to get anything going. Mm-hmm. They need one busted play to get themselves back in this, and it's not going to happen. It just never came. Whereas Ohio State, they couldn't do much on offense either, but when you really needed something to happen, you gave it to Marvin Harrison or, you could run the ball every now and then. So I think that's what ultimately put Ohio State over the edge. But this wasn't a bad showing by Penn State. The offensive numbers show that way, but I think that they were just a couple of plays away from being in this game.
A couple of explosives.
Yeah.
I think this game kind of went how I predicted it to. Like, I thought it was going to be close. I even said that Penn State would hold Ohio State to under 25 points. I kind of thought if they did that, they would probably win the game, but that didn't happen. But it's why I picked Ohio State, because Ryan Day and Ohio State typically figure out how to win these football games. James Franklin and Penn State in years past have not figured out how to win these. And Ohio State did the smart thing of like, oh, we have Marvin Harrison Jr. on our squad. Let's let him take the reins of this offense and carry us to the promised land. And Penn State just didn't have an offense. They couldn't figure things out, really. It just couldn't get anything going, and they didn't have anybody to rely on.
Which projected first-round draft pick wants to burn the tape more? That King, the corner that was responsible for guarding Marvin Harrison Jr., or Fashanu, the offensive tackle? Because Fashanu got his ass whipped for show for 4 quarters.
Yeah.
I mean, Fashanu.
Probably Fashanu, because like corners get a little bit more leeway, especially when you're going up against someone like Marvin Harrison of like, okay, bro, like we get it. He's the best in the country. It's one game. We'll let you have a rebound.
I mean, it was critical downs too. Fashanu just got walked.
Yeah. Fashanu
walked.
Offensive line.
Getting walked in a one-on-one as an offensive tackle is much more detrimental than giving up a crosser route where Marvin Harrison then goes for another 30 yards.
Especially when you're projected as a top 5.
It's not a good look, but it's also not like, oh, wow, we got to stay away from this
kid. To be a top 5 offensive tackle, we can't just be an elite athlete, which he is, but we have to show an anchor. And it's why the dude from Notre Dame has put on okay tape this year, but it's still going to be a first-round draft pick because his anchor's tremendous while also being an elite athlete at 6'8". But yeah, the Fashanu dude wanting to burn the tape for sure.
Yeah.
But I talked about it Sunday, and I'll talk about it again here. I never at all felt like Penn State's offensive coordinating staff did anything to help Aller out. I know he looked rattled, and I know he looked like he didn't feel comfortable at all, but they didn't do anything. They didn't have any type of halfback screen game involved. They have two of the best, they probably have the best tandem at running back in the Big Ten. And I didn't feel like they did anything to utilize that in critical downs, and that was a problem.
No, I think,
and somehow they still managed to be in 3rd and short most of the football game.
Yeah, I think from what I saw, their game plan was going to be, we're going to come in and we're going to lean on Ohio State.
Yeah.
We're going to let our defense do it with it, and they did a good job. We're going to lean on Ohio State. We're going to get long drives, and we're going to get points out of them. Problem was you never got points out of them, and that just eventually you ran out of time.
It was interesting to hear Klatt reveal that James Franklin basically told him, we don't think they're good at quarterback, which is exactly what I said last week. I was like, they're not good at quarterback.
Both teams pretty much said that about Kyle McCord.
Yeah. Both teams were like, we don't have the quarterback play that we typically do. And I noticed it on film watching Purdue play a bunch of man coverage. You do that, we know exactly what you think. Penn State came out and did the same thing and gave them problems. I mean, they were doing everything they could to get Marvin Harrison Jr. open, and he was still duck farting a couple of those footballs to start the football game. Now, he came out in the second half. They did put together a better run offensively, particularly through the air. But, I mean, how much of that is a credit to Marvin Harrison Jr. and Ryan Day? By the way, that offensive coordinating title for Brian Hartline, very obviously in title alone. Because if you watch Ohio State play, notice who's got the Waffle House card in his hand, and notice who's out there calling plays. It's Ryan Day. It ain't Brian Hartline. So that's pretty well known now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Got to be.
For sure.
So do we think Brian Hartline leaves sooner?
I mean, he's bound to, right, eventually.
Is he?
I don't know. I mean, we say these.
Why can't Brian Hartline get a head coaching job in the NFL and follow Marvin Harrison Jr.'s footsteps around like Caleb Williams and Lincoln Riley? Huh? Why is it only resident to the quarterback guy?
I have no clue. I can't answer that for
That
you.
keeps just producing NFL quarterbacks at a high rate, right? Because Kyler Murray and, I guess Baker's now working out in Tampa.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
Yeah. And are we saying Jalen Hurts is an Oklahoma guy? Or is he an
I think
Alabama
most
guy?
people kind of credit Lincoln Riley for getting him to
His
a
best-
sustainable NFL.
I credit Quincy Avery
quit
I credit Quincy Avery for the delivery changes personally.
Yeah.
So that's me. But no, I thought Penn State doesn't win that football game without any weaponry, and they had none. And Ohio State won that football game because of Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ooh, chat's got a hot take. Coach Prime to USC next.
I don't hate it.
I don't hate it either.
mean,
Boy,
that's
you think we talk about him too much now?
Yeah.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
We would talk nothing but Colorado.
But that's
USC
the type
football.
of coach that USC needs. Someone who's going to keep you relevant without playing games.
But that's also under the assumption that Lincoln Riley leaves this year. And I've said before, Deion Sanders is not leaving Colorado after this year.
No,
He's not.
Shadur and Travis need to stay for one more year.
Agreed.
I think it's very obvious there. We didn't talk about Sam Pittman last weekend.
Did you see
on
his
Sunday.
comments?
Sad.
Basically, he I'm going to have to pull the quote. Keep talking.
He sounds really sad.
It's sad to
most of
watch.
his
It's
pressers.
sad to watch, honestly.
Oh, it was sad to watch. Honestly, I feel like I was being punished Saturday for having to watch that football game.
Yeah, I mean, KJ Jefferson was just – and he only came out of the game with 4 sacks.
Brutal.
So this is what Sam Pittman said in his press conference today. I'm not worried about my job. I'm worried about the damn state of Arkansas and having them proud of our football team. I'm the only one that can change it, so we're going to work like hell to get that done.
I mean, that's the best thing you can say in that situation.
He's also
but-
lying. He's definitely worried about his job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
It's
has to be.
It's sad.
But that's
to
the
see,
sign
honestly.
of when you get rid of your offensive coordinator midway through the season.
It's sad to see because he's a likable guy. He's one of those guys where you want Sam Pittman to succeed at Arkansas because Arkansas could be a very fun team in the West.
I was reading some of the comments because, we've always been trying to gauge Arkansas fans of like what they think about the situation. So I was kind of reading the comments, and a lot of them were just kind of like, we never expected Sam Pittman to turn into like this big national brand or national name in this industry. We always knew that Arkansas was at its peak at 8 or 9 wins, but we also knew that there was probably a floor that existed where one of these seasons happened. So like, I feel like it's kind of a mixed review of like some people are like, we're fine, like it's okay, like this is just Arkansas football every now and then you have your extremists who are like, get him out of here right now.
You know what Sam ought to do? Sam ought to have like a Barry Schweitzer role like he has up at Wisconsin, where he's basically like a pseudo lifetime football coach that helps out with athletic director decisions. Because I do believe that Sam Pittman truly loves the state of Arkansas. And,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't buy a 5,000-pound bronze pig, stick it in your backyard if you think you're ever going to move.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And, like, we talked about it with Beamer last night or Sunday, and we talked about it with Sam during the SEC Media Days, and we talked about the idea that if you don't have coordinating background, when shit hits the fan mid-season and you start having to fire coordinators because their lack of performance, well, you don't really have anybody in the building that has background now. Like Dan Enos is gone. And Dan Enos, by the way, was brought in because he was a lifetime OC guy that he knew could handle, taking over as an offensive coordinator and handle all the adjustments required in season as a coordinator, something that Pittman has never done. And we're seeing it across the board right now. Offensively, it's for Arkansas. They can't figure out the offensive side of the football. They have to fire because an offensive coordinator because they made the wrong hire in the middle of the offseason after Riley left them, all right? Well, look at South Carolina, the other football program in this conference that does not have a lifetime coordinator turned a head coach. They have a lifetime special teams PR director in Shane Beamer as their head coach. Well, guess what? South Carolina is abysmal on defense right now and can't make any changes. You know why? Because they don't have a head coach with a background as a coordinator. So when shit hits the fan and you're bad at both units, you don't have the ability to go be duct tape for that unit. So that's the issue at hand. And yes, he is a great face of Arkansas football. It's why I think he should have some type of lifetime coach role, where like a Mark Stoops at Oklahoma, where Lincoln Riley dips out and wants to pull a dickhead move middle of the year and go be a USC head coach. All right, Marky Stoops or Bob
all
Stoops.
your shit out the window.
Bob Stoops will handle the bowl game, and Bobby will go coach us. And our head coach got fired, and we're hiring Luke Fickell. Well, guess what? Barry Switzer's going to coach us in the bowl game. We're going to be all right. You know what I mean? This is the type of role I think Pitt could have at Arkansas instead of taking some, I don't know, $200,000 analyst role and trying to wait around for Stacey Searles to get fired at Georgia as an offensive line analyst. You know what I mean? It doesn't really – I would take that role at Arkansas before I try to push someone out of their job as an offensive line coach if I'm Sam Pittman.
Yeah. And that way you don't get a lot of the criticisms that come your way when teams don't go. I mean, Arkansas losing is a direct reflection of Sam Pittman.
Yeah.
So, when bad things happen, he's going to get the fingers pointed at him.
I talked about it Sunday. I was impressed with Tennessee in the loss. I was. I thought those two football teams were relatively evenly matched. And to watch a Josh Heupel, think about this, a Josh Heupel-led football team. This goofball from UCF that looks like, what's his name from Pawn Stars, Chumley from Pawn Stars, all these jokes y'all make about Mans, and this spread gimmicky offense, and this dude out here looking like he about to win 9 games in the SEC with a defensive-led approach running the football. Y'all didn't expect that. Don't sit here and act like we expected Josh Heupel in Tennessee to be a well-rounded football program. Like what?
Are they well-rounded, though?
I think they are. They run the football. They play good defense. They don't have good quarterback play right now. They don't have great wide receiver play right now. And they're managing ways to find recipes for success in the SEC. That's a well-rounded approach from the head coach, I should say. Not a well-rounded football team currently.
That I agree with.
They are a program that has shown through 2 years they can play a brand of football that is different and winnable. I didn't expect that from Josh Heupel when hired.
I was impressed with the first 3 or 4 drives of Tennessee.
Yeah.
Joe Milton played he was what? I think he started the game 9 for 9.
Yeah.
Joe Milton played like the guy Tennessee fans told you he was going to be in the summer. And then the second half happened and just kind of 27 unanswered?
Yeah.
27 unanswered
That's
points.
Disgusting. You can't do that.
No, that's
and it's a sign of you being outcoached by the other guy as well.
Well, so I can't come away saying I'm impressed with Tennessee as much as it is they showed potential. They showed what they could be, but they also showed they're a wildly inconsistent football team that if you get up on them, you can stay up on them. And if you get their quarterback in a blunder, he's not going to get out of it.
I saw a lot of takes on social media where it was like, oh, well, this proves Josh Heupel can't win big games on the road with this gimmick offense. And I'm like,
I don't know about that.
I think this proves to me that he has an ability to win in multiple fashions, and I didn't think that was possible. And I know we're talking about him after a loss, but that's a good Alabama defense. By the way, it's a good Alabama football team.
Yeah. Now
we've learned. Okay, they've developed into a really, really solid top 8 football team in this landscape of college football right now, and that's enough in its own right. So I left impressed with Tennessee.
I mean, I've been impressed with Tennessee in the same ways you have this whole season. Maybe not necessarily against their performance in the second half, at least against Alabama. But, I mean, I will say, when I looked at the halftime score, because I wasn't watching it at the time, when I looked at the halftime score and Tennessee was winning, I was surprised by that.
Yeah. Missouri, a football team? You're no on Missouri, huh? You don't
I think Luther Burden is transcendent, is talented, and he is the reason why that offense is so great. And I think that's why Missouri looks great, because Luther Burden is that good. I'm not here to say that, Missouri's a great football team. I just don't see it that way. When I watch Missouri, I don't see this team now, don't get me wrong. I think they are good. Obviously, they're 6-1. I think they'll finish second in the SEC East probably. Mm-hmm. I think they are a good football team, but I don't think they're good in the sense of like, this team can contend with the top 8 teams in college football good.
They're a legitimately good football team. Good football teams win 10 games a year. They compete with everyone they play. They give teams runs for their money. They don't beat everyone. They don't blow the doors off everyone. They're a good football team. Football teams can beat very, very good football teams.
Here's the thing I'll say about the SEC East. When I study Missouri, when I study Tennessee, when I study Florida, okay, those are 3 programs. Well, Missouri not necessarily, but with St. Louis and NIL being a thing, maybe they become something to be worried about. But Tennessee and Florida historically have been programs that can at least get in the ring with you and fight with you resources-wise when talking about the University of Georgia, the guy in the program that's on top of the sport right now. Okay, so if anything, I think the talent gap and the talent discrepancy has shrunk between Georgia and the rest of the SEC East. The SEC East is still owned and ran by Georgia, and obviously you'll lose divisions next year. But I think it's good for this conference when I look up and I don't see what's his name up there at Tennessee running a slappy of a program in Jeremy Pruitt. It never sounded, looked, felt like it was ever going to work. Okay, Barry Odom, perennial 7-5 football team, never really going to work. Going to do the same thing he's doing out there at UNLV right now, running it 90 times a game and finding ways to win on defense and controlling the clock, but never really a competitive entity. Okay, Florida under Dan Mullen, we clowned on that operation from Jump Street down there. He had the one great year with Kyle Trask, but we knew it was never sustainable because even during that year, the dude wasn't going out on the recruiting trail and recruiting in a conference that's based off recruiting trail and recruiting. So we knew that was never going to work. All I'm trying to say is the SEC East and the SEC as a whole looks to be in a much better, in a much more solid portion in terms of coaching than it was, say, 4 or 5 years ago.
Absolutely. I agree with that 100%.
All right. Hey, been a great show here. Hey, look at that number. Appreciate you guys for being here. We love you. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. We'll talk to you later.